Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
No, I'm here.
This is Sticky Media Productions, bring you a TV series review.
So, we already did our first review on the Avatar series, at least the first half, and now we want to come to you and do Legend of Korra.
Yeah, Legend of Korra is the sequel spinoff series of the Avatar franchise from Nickelodeon. Both are created by Michael DiMartino and Brian Krzesko. And this series has been a series that no one at the time knew was going to even exist in the first place.
Like honestly, the first series of Avatar: Legend of the Last Airbender was so well made and contained that it was almost as if it could stand on its own and doesn't need anything else to go forward. But that series has such a rich storyline and world and environment and characters that honestly, I could go back and forth in that world anytime. So actually having this chance to actually go back into it and into a new era was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, and when we got into this, Legend of Korra first established was at first it was going to be a mini-series, one season, and then of course because it was such well beloved at first, even that long one season, it decided to branch off into following 3 other seasons, so it's making the 4th series.
Or in this particular case, they broke off into what they call it as the books. Just like in the first series, it had its own particular chapters. This one has its own chapters as well.
Because it barely had a lot more story to tell. And this story, Legend of Korra, takes place 70 years after the events of The Last Airbender.
Oh.
This time focusing on the new Avatar in the rotation of Korra, a waterbender.
Well,
primarily a waterbender.
Or, it depends. Like, Korra is such a different character from Aang, where Aang was much reserved, coming from the air nomads, and was very much of a reactionary person when it came towards the environment and the storylines and trials and tribulations he had to face. Korra tends to go at things face forward and has such a fire about her that's just uniquely present.
Yes, and when first started, she's basically like a prodigy at some way because of the mere fact that she picked up 3 of the 4 main elements right off the bat.
I mean, who does that?
And when the series starts off, but she's on her way to learn the last element, which one that takes a very troublesome for her is air, which is the name of the season 1 book. And each season, it's named after a different motif. Now, the first 3 books before in The Last Airbender were named the elements. Each of the books here, after air anyway.
Well, these particular chapters are named after unique situations and challenges that Korra would face throughout her series as she's coming up.
Book 2 after it will be called Spirits. Book 3 Change, and the book 4 Balance. Now, throughout the seasons, it's a different threat because it's like a different threat that is based on a different type of societal issue.
In this particular sense, the societal issue is coming from is being manifested in this new city that was developed after the first series, Republic City, which has a conglomeration of different nations all together living as one, almost like this world's version of a New York kind of, I would say kind of like
it's a melting pot city.
Yeah, it's a melting pot city.
And primarily with the show being grounded in this main setting, the type of situations they go through, it kind of at times it lessens the scope of what was usually depicted in Last Airbender, which was like this whole global threat. Now the threats they do take on, they have the potential to be that type of an issue, but as a series, how the series is executes it.
It does it more on the same. It does it more on the sense of being more of an intimate situation that revolves not so much around the global aspect of it, but by the societal issues that are coming with different cultural groups coming together and handling those particular situations that comes with those particular melting pot points.
Given the fact that when you're dealing with a new version of Team Avatar, who was relatively a lot more older by a few years than the original group was. The show takes on much more mature themes and at times darker or more explicit content that Nickelodeon at the time was allowed to get away with, given the fact that this is still aimed at a much more family audience.
In this particular case, we're talking about the main threat, which came in this one, which happened to revolve around terrorism.
And terrorism of the first season. Book 2 got brought flat out civil war.
Yeah.
Book 3 dealing with dang their cultists. And
extreme cult activity.
Like that's where it really gets to the heavy material that's explicitly shown. And book 4, which would have been kind of similar to the tyrannical threat that Ozai was back in the last Airbender, just in the form of a different person's nation.
But of course, let's go ahead and let's revolve this thing around and go back into talking about some of those characters that developed from this series.
Starting off with the main character, Korra. Korra, new avatar, which her storyline, how it is done, it's kind of like the reverse of Aang.
Yeah.
And we see Korra as this brash, very almost cocky, like it's a person who's felt entitled to be an avatar. Where Aang was very much like we all know
he ran away from his responsibilities and then ended up realizing that you can't just run away from all your problems, especially when the whole world depends on you. This is the case where it's not so much the same way where it comes from Korra. Korra understands who she is and embraces that fact, and actually is very eager to try and show up that she is willing and able to do it. And for the most part, I gotta say that she really did step up to the plate, but she also has her own hurdles that she has to go across, namely coming from that whole concept of being humble and understanding where everybody is coming from. Not all problems can be solved with a punch or a kick or a flame blast to the face.
Like humility and self-control is the grounding aspect to Korra's character development, and for the most part, her supporting team kind of in ways help buffers that out, but I would say, in comparison from the original series, her team Avatar are relatively weak in this front.
Yeah, they're more of an entourage in this particular sense. Nobody, it's like, do you get time to understand them as characters? To extent, yes, but at the same time, they're also just caricatures, I would say, to what was really, to the actual humanistic elements that were brought forth in the first team.
From the central core group of this new team Avatar, Asami, once we meet her, she's met midway through the first season, but she is the one who gets the most character development. Later on throughout the season, then is Bolin, then is Mako, but as you can see Mako and Bolin, they kind of get more sidestepped to come later down the line. Yeah,
I mean, I feel as though they really stopped becoming relevant, I would say, towards book 3, and then even forced, unfortunately, to the case in book 4.
Or they really just stand and care.
Exactly. They're there, and do they have stuff to do? Yeah, but it's not necessarily really about them. It's about everybody else.
Even Korra's own avatar spirit guide animal, it doesn't necessarily have that much to do in the series.
Yeah, her giant polar dog, Naga, loved her. I actually wanted to see more of her, but at the same time, she's no Appa.
The Fire Fairy actually has a little bit more to do than Naga.
Yeah.
That's weird. But that's not to say that the legacy characters are no show, because they kind of overshadow most of Team Avatar in the first place.
Yeah, they do. They bring back certain characters like
Katara
made. She was really only cameos. Cameo.
But when we talk about legacy characters, we talk about the children.
Yeah, you're right.
Like going back to Tenzin.
He was like a more stuck-up variation of what he feels as though Aang was trying to aspire to be, and what he feels as though his father desperately really wanted. And you really do have that feeling, especially.
He gets blindsided.
Yeah, it definitely gets blindsided. But then again, when you understand where how he was brought up, along with his other siblings, Boomy and Kaya, it's like you do gotta give Aang a little bit of side eye, considering that, okay, yeah, he may have been the one child that really developed airbending from the other two, but it's like they needed love too.
Yeah, you start seeing the cracks and pitfalls of the parenting of both of the past characters, especially with Toph, whose freestyle lifestyle really affected her children.
Yeah, when you look at what
Lin
Beifong
Su.
and Su Beifong had to go through, and then how they developed as individuals. One ended up falling in the footsteps of their mother, that being Lin, as becoming the chief of police, and then Su going on to become a leader of her own sect in the country, of metal benders.
It's like, in a way, it's like the series do what some sequel series or reboots do that takes place years after a much beloved property, is that they acknowledge the accomplishments and what makes those characters great, but it deconstructs them in a very respectful way that doesn't basically destroys how you felt about these characters in the first place.
Yeah, there are no character suicides in my opinion in this
No.
particular series.
It's not ours.
Yeah, not on our point of view, but I can definitely see where certain individuals may not necessarily like where they went with certain characters, or they might want a little bit more development and a little bit more of a light being shown. And of course, I actually feel that way too when it comes to certain particular characters, where I feel as though a little bit more light could have been shown on why they developed the way they did.
But I would say, if anybody outside any character in relation to the Avatar, Team Avatar, or the past series, the one true MVP that I feel should be acknowledged in this review is the character of Varric.
Varric was so cool. Varric is who you really want to aspire to be. He is the guy with the plan, and he's like the Tony Stark of their world. He is so interesting.
Howard Hughes, if you want to be more specific.
Yeah.
But Eric, you see Eric Varric, he can feel like you can be like the first initial appearance or initial reactions you might get to this character is like a good one-off, but as a series
either a one-off or specifically a character that you feel as though they're definitely writing him to be some kind of villain or bad guy going on, but no, he definitely is not.
He is very essential to the development of the show.
Exactly, they do not waste him.
From the background to the politics, as well as basically the visualization of how the whole series and the world evolve.
And let's talk about that, especially a little bit further when it comes to how they do with the development of the world itself, the world building. Because I definitely felt like this was a natural, transition from the old world style of living from Aang's from Aang's world, and then now transitioning into Korra's time period.
Yes, this is translate into production how they were able to do this, because it's a 70-year time span when the series debuts, and what we see is a world that when we initially saw was like ancient Asia, East Asian mainly world. An aesthetic to a more of a 1920s Renaissance appeal. You have the whole costume designs is changed to that aesthetic, that time period. The Jeremy Zuckerman and his track team comes back to do the music, which also kind of
it's very jazzy and
very futuristic fusion from if you want to take it to that time skip aesthetic. And it works for the series, and it makes you feel as though that you're watching a Turner Classic movie, old style film, just in the form of digital animation.
Very much so. I mean, this is definitely something you want to have a chance to flip back and see the first series, and then go ahead and transition to watching this one, and you can definitely appreciate everything they lay out for you.
Yes, the animation Studio Mir is the South Korean animation house that primarily animated this whole series.
The choreography in Legend of Korra actually was in my opinion, from its weakest season, has always been a little bit more top notch from what you saw in previous series of Avatar.
And it's actually you expect that because it's a sequel series, and you can say that the show, despite with some of the wonky areas, did look like it had a lot more of a higher budget than the show. But from what was being said, and at times the series being a little bit uneven in certain storytellings and a little bit of production. Overall, I would say that Korra is still a great series. Some of the most solid, mature animated stories that you'll ever going to be seen is from both series of Avatar.
If you were going to do a sequel series to a beloved franchise, this is definitely one of the ways you want to go about doing it, Glee.
My name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This has been a Siki Media Productions.
Guys, as always, if you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell down there at the bottom for notifications. We want to hear from you. How did you like The Legend of Korra? Did you watch it? How do you like any of the characters? We want to know.
And also look at our social media written reviews on Twitter and Instagram.
See you guys later.
Bye.